The revolution's begun. The time to stand up has come. We are the rocking of the throne. We are the rocking of the throne.
Hi, I'm Victor Tiffany, the co-founder of Revolt Against Plutocracy. Joining me today is the author of My Journey with Bernie, Kacey Carpenter. Kacey, thanks for joining me.
Oh, it's great to be here, Victor. Wonderful to be here on a Friday afternoon evening to start the weekend.
Yeah, I have to start by apologizing in the graphic, the promotional graphic, misspelling not just your first name but your last name too. So my apologies for that.
No worries. Hey, as long as we spelled Bernie's name correctly, all is good.
That's right. So let me begin with the question about your journey. You're right. You have this amazing memoir which talks about how you discovered Bernie and then going all in and going across the country for him. How did this journey with Bernie change your life?
Oh, absolutely. I was like many people, I think, raising my family, working hard, really trusting, a lot of institutions in our country. What I saw on TV and, the government until I met Bernie Sanders. And, I literally felt the burn. And it was, we raised 4 kids and they're all now college graduates, thank goodness. But I really thought about all the issues that Bernie was speaking about and realized he'd been doing this his whole life. And I knew that I had to do more. And before I knew it, I was co-leading, 300 people from 30 states of Iowa for the first caucus. Didn't ever stop. And so I'm actually now full-time for the revolution. This is what I do every single day. So Bernie, was a catalyst. He woke me up in many ways.
I want to talk about how you became a full-time activist here further on in the interview. But first, tagging on to that question, would you, in terms of your political priorities, consider yourself first a capital D Democrat or a small R revolutionary?
Oh, I'm a revolutionary, very much so. It's all about the people and, taking back democracy for the people in our country. That's critical.
So in your book, of course, I was very interested to see that you had made reference to Bernie or bust. You said, I think, a lot of people, and I believe you were talking about the California delegation, a lot of people were Bernie or bust. Do you have any idea what that percentage might have been? Half or a quarter or 2/3, or any idea how many people that was?
Yeah, I would say it was a significant majority. We were very fortunate in California because it's such a blue state that we knew that, I wrote in Bernie Sanders in the general election, as many of us did. And, when we went to Philadelphia at the convention, we organized because we were the largest group. And because it was so late in the process, they hadn't allocated our last delegate until July. And so we were still going to get Bernie elected. And so coming out of Philadelphia, we had tremendous momentum and we really still believed that Bernie had a chance. And I still have, my Bernie 2020 hat. So there's a tremendous number of people that are Bernie family here in California, still Sanders, very much.
Just curious, when you first heard that slogan, at what point in your journey did Bernie or bust sort of come into your consciousness?
Yeah, I think I heard it because I was traveling around the country from Iowa. I went to about 10 states. And so it was probably in the late spring, that I heard it, Bernie or bust. And it made sense to me just from a messaging perspective at first. You think about the trailblazers that came across the country to California, right? They were California or bust. And to me, it was really a message of, we will do everything we can to fight for this man to be our president. There will be nothing will stop us. No money, no other distractions. We are 100% committed. So it was actually before I got to Philly, I heard about it and I thought this is a great message.
That phrase came from California bust. It came from California. A woman who knew that phrase used it on Facebook just as a comment. And we were looking for a Twitter handle at the time for the account for this write-in project. And my co-author of Bernie or Bust saw that as a comment on a post about Bernie Sanders and said, hey, try Bernie or Bust as a Twitter name. It was available. This is very early July 2015. So we snagged it. And then within a couple of days, both of us just went, oh, this is golden. Let's start using this thing. So my next question has to do with, you wrote in Bernie Sanders, and you sort of said, in your memoir, I'm in a safe state. I'm going to go ahead and write in Bernie Sanders. Who would you have voted for if you were a resident of Michigan or Wisconsin?
Yeah, it would have been much harder. And I actually traveled and did door knocking in some of those states. And we hosted volunteers in my home for 2 weeks before the primary, from Michigan, from Wisconsin, for Virginia. And so it would have been a very challenging position to be put in. And I actually know a lot of people who ultimately end up doing everything they could to defeat Trump. And so in my situation, when I was in Philadelphia, that's when I really thought this through, during the convention. And it was the third day on Wednesday after we had, we protested, we voted for Bernie. And then Wednesday, my roommate and I, Juan, were like, what do we do today? And we decided to go out to the streets and join a protest rally. And they brought all the volunteers onto the stage, and we were talking, we were giving speeches. And a lot of people were talking about Dem exit. Other delegates were saying they have to Dem enter. And that's when I realized I'm going to be a connector between the inside and outside. And so if I had to make that decision in California, I would not have ever, voted for Trump. There's no way I would have allowed it. But I was very fortunate that I could be right in Bernie. And, we had a chance, and we still do. He's my president as far as I'm concerned.
You didn't answer my question. If you were in Michigan, who would you have voted for?
Well, I would have had one other choice, and that's probably what I would have done. And it would have been a protest vote, but it would have been I can't even tell you for sure what I've done. It's because that wasn't my situation. I didn't have to make that decision. It would have been a tough decision for me to make. I don't know. All
right. You did write in Bernie Sanders, as you mentioned. And of course, at that point in time in California was one of the denied 270 states. Is that something you heard of? Because you didn't mention it in your memoir.
Oh, I did. I wasn't able to write everything into my book. In fact, that was one of my challenges when I was writing it. How do I write it all? And so some of the story was just my side of the story. There was millions of other stories, but I knew there was an opportunity in key states, safe states, to write in Bernie. And that was really still the plan, that we felt there was still a chance if something would have happened, he could have potentially been the candidate even at that stage. So that was my hope.
Yeah, that was an entire chapter in Bernie or Bust, the
Nice.
Optenai 270, because at that point there was no chance, not because we might have been able to deny the 270, but the fact is the current session of Congress would not have voted for Bernie Sanders. It seemed to some people like they would have, but there just was. If every Bernie-crat running and every Green Party member running, every write-in candidate running in 2016 had gotten elected, it would not have been enough to get him elected to the White House. So we were trying to get the build up for Jill Stein at that point. That was the or bust option that we should have started with. But again, that's a big point of my book, not yours. Let me just ask you real quick about the finding your book. All right, can you have a copy of it handy so you can show people?
Absolutely. Yeah, My Journey with Bernie. It's the easiest place to find it. It's myjourneywithbernie.com. And I'm all over the internet, but you can find this book, and there's a special summer promotion going on right now for the ebook and signed copy. So check out my website, myjourneywithbernie.com.
All right, great. Did your sleep schedule change at that time when you were in the heat of this thing? Were you sleeping less than you are now or less than normal?
Oh, absolutely. In Philadelphia, we literally slept maybe a couple hours a night. And
no, I meant for months and months.
Yeah, during the campaign, I was actually still working and traveling a lot. And so I would be doing whatever I could to help Bernie. And a lot of that work was happening either at night, late night hours, or during road trips where I'd get a few hours to get out, meet some other campaigns, and go door knocking. And so it absolutely disrupted my sleep schedule. And I was exhausted, literally wiped out after Philadelphia because we didn't sleep at all for a week. And so, but what motivated me was the first time I met Bernie, and I saw him standing next to me in Reno, Nevada. And I thought, this man's been doing this for his entire life, and he's got such energy and stamina. And it just propelled me to do a little bit more every day.
Sure. I know the feeling. For me, it was adrenaline. I don't know if I could ever do that again, but I was 5 hours a night for 20 months until I got that book, the first draft of the book completed. I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler alert, but you did get laid off from your job, and you sort of just took it in stride in your memoir. Like, it's not only no big deal, maybe it wasn't a big deal for you emotionally, but I'm curious because I find it strange. You had 23 years experience with a large corporation. This is well into the economic recovery, and all of a sudden you get laid off. Do you think that was because you were distracted by your efforts at work and maybe you deserved to be laid off? Or was it because specifically you were a revolutionary and they just didn't like that if they had heard about it? Or was it just corporate greed? They dumped you for a cheaper person with the same skills?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I started my career in Silicon Valley when a lot of the Silicon Valley startups were kind of like the movement. They were grassroots. We believed we were changing the world. And that's one of the things that really motivated me to be, so engaged in my career. But what happened is that these global corporations grew and moved into these boom bust cycles. And so big corporations like the firm I work for, Cisco, moved from annual layoffs to quarterly layoffs. And these layoffs have nothing to do with performance. They absolutely have to do with eliminating the older people and bringing in younger people that they can pay less. But the reason why it was not a negative thing in my book and in life is because the day after I got the notice, I went to the California Democratic Convention with all my Bernie family, and we were protesting on the streets for the unions. And I realized I was released. This was my retirement. This was the opportunity for me to commit full time to the revolution. And so, surprisingly, a lot of my friends at Cisco were huge supporters of me. I know it had nothing to do with my campaigning because a lot of people were cheering me on. And, but I was very fortunate. So that opportunity to take another new step in my journey, I realized it was meant to be. And so that was actually a good opportunity because I was able to cut off that handcuff, that leash, and move forward onto this campaign, this movement full time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that someday myself. It should be about 3 years and 3 months from now. So you're very active now in the Democratic Party, despite the revelations from Donna Brazile that came out that, in fact, no matter what we did, no matter what Bernie Sanders did, there was no way that the Clinton-owned DNC was going to ever let any candidate, Bernie or Senator O'Malley or Governor O'Malley or any other candidate, was not going to win that because she owned the DNC, literally paid for it, owned it, controlled it. And you're still in the Democratic Party. And, of course, you had a similar sort of thing out there in California when Kimberly Ellis ran for Democratic Party state chair.
Yes,
won that election and then got overridden again by superdelegates. Yes. So I'm just curious, it seems like the Democratic Party is, if not flat out corrupt, extremely rigged toward the establishment. What do you give the chances of actually turning this into, once again, the kind of the party of FDR, a progressive party that's with the working people rather than Wall Street and large corporations?
Yeah, I'm absolutely committed to it. So the California delegation that was elected to Philly, we were the largest of all the states because it's the largest states. And we organized and we created our own election to create our own leadership. And going into Philly, we had so much momentum that we realized we had an opportunity to what we call Dem Enter in California. And we did. And we actually got elected. We had the 2/3 of the elected delegates. I was one of them, got elected. And we actually ran a very strong race for Kimberly to try to create the leadership, but we didn't quite make it. But we didn't stop. And one of the things, we like to call it now, it's now called Dem Occupy. We're here. We're progressive. We're here to stay. We're going to keep fighting for, the key issues, healthcare, affordable housing. We're going to bring candidates. I'm actually supporting a number of very strong progressive candidates in California, including Jovanka Beckles, who's here in AD 15. She's running for assembly district. She's an amazing grassroots, people-powered candidate. So we actually believe very much that in California, we're occupying the party and we're going to keep fighting. We're bringing coalitions together, but it varies by state, right? This is not only in California. I realize that there's other situations in other states, but I have really good friends that I met on my journey in Florida, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in New York. So the way I see it is we just continue to fight for that transformation, people-powered. And it's really looking at the 2/3 of people that are not in either party. That's how Bernie did it. That's how we're doing it. We're actually creating a movement, not a campaign. So, we're going to keep going. We're not going to stop.
All right. I want to go back to the convention just for a second, because you took part in the walkout. And this is not something that's in any book, that's known in any book. I happen to know it because I interacted with the organizers of Movement for Bernie. They were pushing the California delegates to walk out at that moment. Right. In New York, separately, independently, and without any kind of coordination or knowledge that anyone else was doing this, I was doing the same thing to get New York and some Massachusetts delegates to walk out, and I was promoting it on the delegate Facebook groups page. And again, separate, totally uncoordinated, and without interacting or knowledge at all, remnants of the Occupy Wall Street group were pushing delegates to walk out at all of them, all three of us, at the exact same moment we were advocating when they vote for Hillary Clinton, walk out of that thing. And so that's just something that's not in any book or common knowledge, that there was these three separate uncoordinated efforts all targeting the exact same moment for you guys to walk out. And then of course you did, which was pretty amazing.
It was awesome. I mean, I could have written in Philadelphia, the whole book was in my head, and I could have written an entire book just around the Philly experience, because there were so many stories, and every day there was something new that was happening. Sunday night we thought, wow, right, we still have a chance. And then Monday, next thing you know, we're protesting and we vote on Tuesday. And so there was very incredible coordinated things that happened. And then there were just grassroots, right? And so, those memories, I'll never forget. We were celebrating after we're celebrating. And the Hillary supporters like, why are you celebrating? We're like, because we know we won. And we're celebrating, the family that's here together. And we're not going to stop. This just unleashed the moment. And
yeah,
so
there's two books out to that effect: Bernie Won and How Bernie Won. How Bernie Won, of course, by Jeff Weaver, his campaign manager.
That's right.
When you in your memoir, you mentioned looking into the media tent and seeing maybe it was the press conference or the crowd around Tina.
Yeah, Nina Turner.
Nina Turner, thank you. Because she was not allowed to introduce Bernie Sanders. Do you remember what day that was? Was that Wednesday?
It was either Tuesday or Wednesday. I believe it was Wednesday.
It was Wednesday. I was there. We were within 20, 30 feet of each other at that moment.
I'm sure we were. And this is the crazy thing about the Bernie family. A lot of us are connected on Facebook. We're meeting in person still, some of us for the first time. And I have delegates have shown me pictures of me from a different perspective, from Philadelphia and from other locations. And I feel like my story was kind of my perspective, but there's really millions of our stories on our own journey, Bernie journeys. And so I'm sure we were standing right next to each other at the Nina Turner protest.
Yeah. So this is a book I would recommend because for anyone who wants to get involved in a political campaign, and I'm not talking about for president, this is right. You have great advice for anybody getting involved in a political campaign, whether it's for city council or state office or national office. And I think that's the service you provide. And I just want to allude to your 12 tips at the end of your book. I don't want to go through all 12 of them because that would be a spoiler. But I do have a question for you as to which of those 12 in your mind is the most important.
Well, that's a tough question because there are 12 steps. It's probably the first step, which is really listening. And listening is the tool you need to use when you're canvassing, door knocking. It's how you get people to you listen to people and you understand their issues, because 2/3 of us are agreeing on the same issues in this country. And if we can just be patient and, make eye contact and listen, you'll find common ground. And then it's also in terms of the activists that we bring together and mobilize. We're all so unique and different. You have to be open to different perspectives and point of views. And that's, for me, it's actually one of my weaknesses. I'm actually so passionate and I have energy. I just want to go, 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 go. And to actually take a minute and listen and make sure people are being heard. For me, that was the most important one. But I think it does go across all the others in particular.
It's one reason I didn't interrupt you, because I wanted to listen to your answer. But also, what I found, by the way, I agree with you on that. It is the most important of the 12. And what I found interesting about it was that's how you swung voters. When you had undecided voters, you started by listening instead of talking to them and trying to convince them. It was actually listening that opened their mind up to you. So I thought that was a great little insight. And again, it's probably, I hope people still continue to go ahead and acquire that book, because it's 11 other important tips there. But absolutely, it's probably one of your most important insights in the entire book.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, for me, it was so refreshing to be part of this campaign where the whole thing is flipped upside down. And, it's the opportunity to really make big ideas happen. Anything's possible. It's the opportunity to move faster and innovate. All the creative people we meet on this journey, but it's also about these issues that Bernie is advocating for, that we can make these things happen. I believe that. I'm an optimist, and I think that's another message in my book. It's like it was a roller coaster ride of highs and lows, and there was many times in this journey when I felt like, am I going to be able to keep going? Those late nights when you're like, I don't know, and then the next day you wake up, you drink your coffee, and of course we're going to keep going. We're not going to stop. So it's I'm trying to bring this passion, this energy through my book to others around the country, and hopefully by 2020 I'll have a chance to visit every state in the country.
That would be great. I hope your optimism is infectious, because we need a lot more optimism in this country, especially at this point, given the occupant of the White House.
Absolutely, that's for sure.
Well, Kacey, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate your time, and I wish you the best of luck getting that book out there. I think it's an important contribution.
Thanks for bringing me on your show, and I hope to see you in the future on my journey, hopefully in 2020. Thank you.
Who knows? Maybe you will. Thank you. Take care.
Revolt Against Plutocracy won't just be covering the news about the necessary revolution in the United States. Sometimes we'll be making the news. If you want to stay on top of the revolutionary actions and strategies of grassroots, genuine progressives, and our allies, please subscribe to our YouTube channel today.